Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, Damsels and Dingbats, to another episode of Doing the D. Today we're taking a look at Greenfield Village, which, along with the Henry Ford Museum of American Innovation, is referred to by locals simply as the Henry Ford. It's formerly known as the Edison Institute. This National Historic Landmark is in the Detroit suburb of Dearborn, Michigan, and it's recognized as the largest indoor-outdoor museum complex in the entire United States. Named for its founder, the automobile industrialist Henry Ford, and based on his efforts to preserve items of historical interest, Greenfield Village, the outdoor section of the Living History Museum, was the first outdoor museum of its type in the entire nation, and it served as a model for subsequent outdoor museums. Visitors entering the front gate are greeted by the Josephine Ford Memorial Fountain and the Benson Ford Research Center. The village itself has nearly 100 historical buildings, which were carefully moved there from their original locations and arranged into a village-like setting. And the museum's intent is to show how Americans lived and worked since the founding of the country. The village includes buildings from the 17th century to the present, many of which are staffed by costumed interpreters who conduct period tasks like farming, sewing, and cooking. A collection of craft buildings, such as pottery, glassblowing, and tin shops, also provide demonstrations while producing materials used in the village and for sale. Visitors can wander freely into and through these buildings, viewing the historic artifacts of the previous owners and of the time periods. Many even have guides who, in costume, will gladly talk about the site, its history, and the importance it has to the village. Included in the collection are village homes and buildings, among which, but not limited to, are Noah Webster's Connecticut home, the Wright Brothers bicycle shop and home, a replica of Thomas Edison's Menlo Park Laboratory Complex from New Jersey, Harvey Firestone's family farm, and the Logan County, Illinois courthouse where Abraham Lincoln actually practiced law. There's also William Home McGuffrey's birthplace, Luther Burbank's office, J.R. Jones's general store, the Ackley Covered Bridge, and there's even a windmill there from my neck of the woods up at Cape Cod, also known as the Ferris Mill. You can even find Henry Ford's birthplace and his prototype garage here. Now, Greenfield Village itself sits on 240 acres of land, which is, it's good size, but only 90 acres are currently used for the attraction. The rest is forest, rivers, extra pasture for the sheep and horses. Also, as an interesting note, there are various modes of historic transportation in the village that you can actually ride on and tour around the village in. These forms of transportation include authentic Model T Fords. There's a 1931 Model AA bus, and the cool thing about the bus is it's actually only one of 15 still known to exist. Also, there's a horse-drawn omnibuses, which we actually, during our trip there, took the time to actually ride on one. So you'll see some footage of that there in a minute. And there's also a train pulled by steam locomotives. They've actually got three distinctly different trains that they hook up from time to time. And they even dress one up occasionally during the year to look like Thomas the Train. They have like a Thomas week. And so the kids really love that. But
enough preliminary for now. My first visit to Greenfield Village, I went with Tara on her birthday. It was a very beautiful day, and we got out and we made our way around the village. So I took some video footage for you. So I'll give you a little introduction on each clip here. But for the most part, I'm just going to sit back and let you watch and let you enjoy. So here, this is just past the entrance next to the railroad station. This is the inside of one of the first buildings as you go in. This is actually the soybean experimental laboratory. Now, Henry Ford actually believed that industry and agriculture should complement one another,
farmer, so in the 1930s he pursued soybeans as a crop that might actually unite the two. Ford built a soybean laboratory in Greenfield Village, and experiments there led to the use of some soy-based oils and plastics in Ford Motor Company vehicles. After exploring some more of the buildings closer to the entrance, we made our way up the street. Tara wanted to ride the horse-drawn wagons, so we located the bus stop for that, and eventually the horses showed up. Unfortunately, we didn't realize we needed wristbands to ride the wagons, take rides in the vehicles, the train, and all of that. So we missed this group of horses, and we eventually had to go back to the entrance to get our wristbands. But before we did that, I actually managed to get some footage of these guys. So very pretty horses, by the way, very pretty. Now, as some of you may know from my past videos, I've explained that I have a bad back. I experience back pain from time to time. So getting out and physically walking around an attraction this size, I know by the end of the day I'm going to be in a lot of pain. So we actually had the foresight to rent one of those little electric scooters, and so I pretty much followed Tara around in that all day. But instead of going all the way back to the ticket booth to get the wristbands, Tara suggested I stay there and wait, and she'd go get the wristbands and get back. So while I was sitting there waiting, I noticed up the street a ways, you can see the horse-drawn buggy that was just in the last clips further up the street. I noticed several of the Model T Fords that were available that you can actually ride on these around they take circuits and routes around the park, and they talk about the vehicles and all that. So I caught a few of those, and I even managed to see the bus. Now, eventually I got bored, as little boys do, and I decided to go ahead and scoot my way back up towards the entrance to see what Tara was doing. And the train was here. When we first came in, the train was not at the station. Now, we heard this horn a little later up the road as the train arrived in station, but we didn't actually see it arrive. So I managed to catch this footage just after I ran back in with Tara. I asked her to hold on a minute, and I got this footage of one of their trains that was doing the circuit. Now, later, towards the end of the video, we do actually manage to get on the train and take a lap around the village. And I do have most of the footage for that I will share with you. But I figured I'd catch this little scene for you because I thought it was kind of cool. After recording the train footage, we made it back to the horse carriage stop just in time to catch a ride with these fellas. These are not the same horses, the same driver, or the same wagon, but I did take the footage so that you could kind of get the idea what the experience for us was like.
Yeah, alright, well welcome to Greenfield Village and welcome back to the rest of you guys. My name is Grace and I'll tell you a little bit about what we're driving past on our way back to Eagle Tavern. Oh, and a couple things about the ride. As you can see, this one just filled up. When we get to Eagle Tavern, if there's people waiting to get a ride there, then we'll have to ask you guys to get off so that others can take a ride as well. Otherwise, I will just be coming back to this front stop, so I'll be making a loop. So right now, we're in the Working Farms District. As you can see, there's some sheep over in the pasture over here. If you go back down that dirt lane, at the end of that lane is Firestone Farm. So the Firestone family raised merino sheep, like the ones you see in the pasture here. They also raised some crops. Down at the farm there, it's lambing season, so you might find some lambs if you head off down that way. The other part of our Working Farms District is the William Ford barn over here on the left, the red barn. That's where these carriage horses are based out of. So Abe and Lincoln just left the barn there. They were in there having some hay for their lunch. A little background about the village here. Henry Ford collected these buildings so they could tell the stories of people and daily life. Henry Ford was actually born in the house we just passed back there on the right. And Henry Ford's father built this barn. That's why it's called the William Ford barn. That was built back in 1863, the year Henry Ford was born. So as you can see, we just passed a bunch of Model Ts there. Over on the right is where you catch the Model T rides, the Model T loading dock, right there. And then down at the end of this road, you can look down and see number 7, the steam engine that's in the roundhouse right now. But that's the roundhouse down at the end there, Detroit, Toledo, and Milwaukee roundhouse. And you can walk through there and see some of those steam engines that pull the train around the village. If anybody needs to open windows behind them to get some air back in there, you can feel free to do that. I know today's a chillier day though. So on our left here, the second brick building that has the name Edison at the top is a smaller scale replica of one of the Edison power companies. That one used to be located down in Detroit, and Henry Ford actually worked there as a chief engineer for Thomas Edison. Walk on, hey Lincoln, get up there. Yeah, hey Lincoln. Alright boys, walk on, Lincoln. Lincoln's not used to seeing dogs around the village. And then at the end of the street up here, there's a little red brick building. That's Smith's Creek Depot. That's one of the stops on our railroad. And now on our right here, we've been going past the playground. That's our newest addition to the village. It's only a few years old. It's built to represent a 1920s construction site. And then there's the carousel that was built by the Herschel Spillman Company. And that carousel was originally located out in the state of New York. It's over 100 years old. It's also included in your ride band, so make sure to get a ride on that today. And ahead of us, we've got another carriage going out there. That's pulled by Orville and Wilbur, the Wright brothers. That's the name of that horse team. We're headed left here down to the Eagle Tavern. Eagle Tavern used to be a stagecoach stop on the route from Detroit to Chicago, so people would travel in vehicles kind of like the one you're in right now, and as you can imagine, it would take days needs to get to Chicago going at a pace like this, so they needed places to stop and rest. Eagle Tavern is one of those places. And today you can also go there to eat some food. They serve recipes made from 1850s style recipes. And then back behind it there's another place to eat called Taste of History. So if anybody's hungry, that's a cafeteria style dining. Step up, boys. So we're gonna pull up right here, and once I get the horses stopped, I'll unlatch this, and so you can just give the door a push on the left side there and watch your steps if you're gonna climb out. Sometimes the horses jerk around a little bit. But thanks for riding, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
During the return trip, passengers were animated in conversation, so the driver respectfully remained quiet so as to not interrupt. As a result, you get to hear me give the rest of the tour. The white building we see on the left ahead is a town hall built in 1979 and was designed and patterned after, standard New England town hall buildings. Across the street is the carousel we'll be seeing here in a moment.
So it takes me, it's about 40 minutes to get here. It's about the same, maybe 30 minutes, yeah.
Walk on, boys. Walk on.
No, 96.
Walk on.
Novi, if you're familiar with.
I've heard of it, but I can't.
Yeah, we're on 96.
I can't even place 96.
Which way do you drink?
I go 696 to
75.
No, I don't even take 75. I take Southfield.
Yeah, Southfield. If you keep going west on 696, that's Southfield. You pass in like 15 or 20 miles.
The building behind it is the Grimm Jewelry Store, built in 1885 on Detroit's Michigan Avenue. Just beyond that is the Heinz House, built in 1854, home of Henry J. Heinz, founder of the Heinz Ketchup Empire. Down the street, we catch a glimpse of the Greenfield Village tintype studio, where wet plate style photographs can still be taken of visitors during the Civil War Remembrance Weekend. Next, we see the Wright Brothers home and cycle shop, moved to the village in 1937.
There was some at the we went to there was tomatoes. Go in the winter.
You know what? It's cold, but it's worth it.
That's why you're walk around. My guest was for Toledo too last year. Was it?
Resting nearby are the hearse shed, built in 1850, to house horse-drawn hearses to carry coffins through town during funeral processions. And next to it, the Miller School, built in 1940, is a replica of the school Henry Ford himself attended at age 9.
Portion, I can't remember what date. I happened to find out that it was half
Try to go
off
on
at
this Lucky
Toledo,
Frog, which is South Frog. It's got like clothes on.
and
The only one
so I was able to get half off. So that's
So make a wish on your own. What about the carousel?
Was it in the ride?
And the last building we see here in my footage is the Ford home, which was Henry Ford's actual birthplace. It was restored in 1919 and moved into the village in 1944.
My parents are older, they can't do this, so it worked out, because I think the ride cost for both of us
It's that.
it pays for, it's already paid for itself.
Yeah. That's what I scored this year.
Back to your scooter. It's still there, honey.
Yeah.
I don't have to make you drive everywhere because I have my license.
Right, remember that? They don't.
I've never done this.
Oh, yeah, well, I would bring kids, I'm like, no, we can't do that, we can't go this way, we can't.
Oh, well, that's how I would have to be because the Model T I was 750. And it's like, I don't have a 5
So we're gonna pull over here to stop in a minute. Down the dirt lane is the Firestone Farm. And you take a right and head down the paved road, then go through the archway. That's Liberty Craftworks. There's a lot of great stuff to see in that area. You guys want to get off here? You can push the door open.
And of course, having seen the carousel on the horse ride, we decided that it should be our next step. And even though I couldn't ride it, Tara, well, her smile says enough. You know, obviously her inner child was having a blast. Next, we took a stroll around the Liberty Craftworks, which is a series of mills and shops and such like that, kind of, you know, positioned around the Stony Creek Mill Pond. You can go into any of these shops, and they actually, you can watch them make their products. You can purchase their products. Once in a while, they'll have like little hands-on interactive things you can do. So this was kind of a nice little portion of the park. Something interesting we discovered about the pond itself is that there are a considerable number of fish in there. This is part of their stormwater drainage system. It helps to clean the water and all that, but I'm not really certain. We never really found out why there were so many fish in this pond. It almost looked like it had been stocked. Still, they were not afraid of anybody. You'd throw breadcrumbs or something in there, they'd come right up and eat it. I think they were catfish, but still, it was kind of cool to see all of them in there. Now here we find ourselves in a part of the park called Walnut Grove. The building that we're looking at here is actually the Henry Ford Academy Village campus, which is actually an active college prep high school, grades 9 to 12, and it's actually located here inside the museum. So I thought that was kind of cool. Well, we're getting close to the time where we need to wrap this video up, but unfortunately I didn't get nearly the footage I would have liked to. There is so much more within Greenfield Village that people can see and participate in, and I may very well end up going back someday and doing a secondary video to follow this one up, just so you can see more of the stuff there. Before we left, however, before the park closed, we did manage to make it back to the entrance and have ourselves a happy little train ride here. So I caught some footage of that. I'm going to go ahead and sit back and let you take a look.
This is Main Street, this is the right on the cycle stop off in the building built in 1870. essentially get up and exit to the left if you are.
Well, folks, that brings us to the end of another episode of Doing the D. I hope you enjoyed the footage that we took for you and the presentation, and keep your eye out in the future for more episodes. Again, we'll probably be going back to Greenfield Village again in the future, so I'll try to get some more footage of different buildings and stuff, get you another episode up. Until then, though, I've been your host, DM Renavion, saying stay safe, have fun. I'm out.